go ahead.
Awesome. Awesome, Sarah. Thanks so much for having us. It's really our honor to be here. So thanks for letting us join the Tech Talk. We'll do introductions, the three of us, in just a moment, so you kind of know who we are and where we fit into the organization. But really our excitement for being here is because of what we have personally found in the insurance industry. I was not educated on the insurance industry in college. I did not know about all the different jobs in the industry. You can find a job pretty much for any major. It's pretty incredible. I always thought insurance was just sales. That's kind of where my mind went when I thought of insurance. So you're really lucky to have these tech talks to introduce you just to a variety of industries. Specifically today, we'll talk about insurance and how does tech fit into insurance. But I've now been with Acuity Insurance coming up on 7 years, and I've seen the emphasis that Acuity has put on being a great place to work. And we do want to share some of that information today, but specifically, how does IT fit into that and into an insurance company? So I'm going to kick things off in just a moment here after we do introductions and just give you Acuity's story. We have such a unique corporate turnaround. It's really important to set the foundation of who we are as a company before we get into more specifics about what we do in IT. Then I'm going to pass it over to Marcus. He's Acuity's Vice President of IT. He'll give an overview of the department. He'll also talk about his career experience. And then as noted, we have Maddie with us, an alum representing the university. So we're honored to have her with us, and she'll introduce to you her experience having been onboarded, trained, and is now building a great career at Acuity. So let's do some introductions. I'll just get mine out of the way and we'll jump into the real tech talent today. But I've been a part of Acuity's talent acquisition strategies for the last 7 years, but specifically focusing on the technical roles. So if anyone here ends up applying at Acuity in a software development capacity or an engineer capacity, really anything technical, you'll likely be working with me. So that's where I fit in. Acuity's been hiring on average, between 100 and 150 new employees a year, and IT's been a big component of that growth. We've seen just tremendous opportunities over the years. Also been fortunate to share this corporate turnaround story that I'm going to share with all of you today, and how that's impacted our culture, our environment, just leading to the various accolades as a top employer nationally. So that's enough about me. Maddie, Marcus, it would be fun if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourself. Maybe Maddie, will start with you and then jump over to Marcus before I get into the corporate turnaround story.
Sure, thanks, Jordan. So as mentioned, my name is Maddie Martens. I am a programmer analyst at Acuity. I've been here for 2.5 years. I did graduate from Concordia, both with my undergrad and my master's in computer science. And I will get a little bit more into that when I present later, but I'll pass it off to Marcus for now.
Thanks, Maddie, and welcome everybody. Yeah, like Jordan said, appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk with everybody. I think Concordia has been a great partnership. I've had the opportunity to. Professor Littman has been up by us a number of times and gotten his input and perspective, and definitely I think there's a close allegiance between our two organizations. I really feel like Concordia is a special place, and the opportunities you have there to learn from somebody like Professor Littman has been great, and we've had the opportunity to hire a number of really great, bright candidates, Madie being a star amongst them over the past several years, and just really loved having the opportunity to sit down and talk to all of you. So yeah, like Jordan said, I'll give a little bit more detail and background on some of my personal experiences, and just looking forward to the conversation.
All right, well, let's just jump in. We got to get this out of the way. We are an insurance company. We operate in the property and casualty space. So specifically, we do a lot with commercial businesses. And then we also insure cars and homes for personal lines, right? So my house and my RAV4 are insured by Acuity. So we do cover that side of the business as well. What we don't offer though, just so you know, we don't do life insurance. We're not on the health insurance side. So we're really focusing on commercial businesses. So that's where we spend a majority of our time. Now we are headquartered in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So let me just kind of click through here. We'll talk about this outlined red area in a second here. So just remember this visual. This outlined area is really what our current CEO inherited when he became the CEO, and was starting to lead our organization. But we're in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, so we are not far from Concordia, just a little ways north, right near Lake Michigan. You've probably seen us on the highway, this little picture down here, huge flag. You can't miss it if you've ever seen the flag. Honestly, you can probably see it from Concordia. So it's a big flag. Let's see here. We were in 10 states initially when Ben took over. We've now expanded into 30 states. So I'm just going to click through here so you can see the years we went into these states. So we are currently selling insurance in 30 states. Most recently this year and going into 2022, we'll be expanding into Georgia. We've been averaging about a little over a state per year of growth over the last 10 years. So it's been really exciting. What you probably notice is we're expanding geographically across the map with the intent of being a national carrier. And really this growth, it all happened organically going into new states. We didn't purchase any companies or have any mergers or acquisitions. This was just Acuity expanding where its products and services were available, which is a great method for us, but that's also been propelled by our culture. And to best explain our culture, we have to go back in time and we have to share Acuity's story of our corporate turnaround. So I'm going to go all the way back to the late 1990s. Ben always, when he tells this story, he's like, not knowing his audience, he's like, you may not have even been born yet when I was doing all this with Acuity Insurance. And I always chuckle. But in the late 1990s, we were called Heritage Insurance. So just keep that in mind. We have had a name change under the new leadership regime. And we were operating in those 10 states with that red outline. And it is an understatement to say the business was struggling. In fact, it's widely known that Heritage Insurance was nearing bankruptcy at that time. So that was our business update. But let's talk about the environment really quickly. Heritage had nearly 30% employee turnover per year. So if you think about that, we are essentially losing what equated to our entire workforce over 3-year periods and then having to replenish that workforce, retrain the workforce. It's very expensive to hire, retrain, and also continue to support the customer at the level you need to. But the question we always get, how in the world was there 30% turnover? And you might even be thinking, okay, it couldn't have been that bad. But I want to paint a quick picture of the environment. And these are all stories we heard from people who were there at the time. So when employees pulled into work to start for the day, they went into the parking lot. And if you backed into a parking space instead of pulling in forward, you were subject to getting disciplinary action. Once you parked and you start making your way into work, if you were late even by a minute, and we actually learned if you're not 5 minutes early, you're actually late. There was an executive at the door, so you can just picture Marcus at the door, writing you up, telling you like you're late, and you were subject then to disciplinary action. Once you were in work, bells would dictate the schedule for the day. So it's like being back in school, being controlled of when you needed to be at different places, right? So a bell would go off when you had to get to your desk in the morning, when you could go to the restroom, when you could go eat. And then there was always a final bell at the end of the day when everyone would, quite literally, we've heard, run to the doors to be able to leave the work environment. You couldn't have photos of your family on your desk. So there was nothing personal. Everyone was using the same colored binders. So sounds kind of crazy, right? And this is just a tip of the iceberg of the environment that was present at that time. But what's the theme with all these elements of control? I think that's clearly what it is. There wasn't trust between leadership and employees, and that created a very toxic environment, right? Employees were literally counting the minutes to when they could leave, and that had a profound impact on the business as well. So clearly things could not continue at Heritage as they were. So they started to begin a transition away from that leadership regime. And Ben Salzman, who's pictured here at the time, was Heritage's Vice President of Enterprise Technology. So that's really unique. You heard that right. IT department ends up CEO in an insurance company. So as Marcus later goes into more detail about the department and the emphasis we've put on it, clearly there's immense buy-in from the very top on how important IT is to our organization. But Ben was in a leadership role at that time, uniquely so. He experienced this whole environment firsthand, right? The bells going off. He had friends and coworkers who would come to him with their challenges, their frustrations. These were tough times for him, and he talks about that and reflects on that quite often. Not only did he start to see frustrations boil amongst his colleagues, he saw a lot of his friends leave the company altogether. Thankfully, a lot of them have come back since he came into leadership. But during this transition, Ben was asked to interview for CEO, and he did. He rose to the top. He got extended the offer. But Ben has told us he had thinking to do. He knew if he took this job as CEO, he's inheriting a failing company. It was failing financially, it was failing culturally. Did he really want this to be his first opportunity as a CEO? And he almost didn't take the promotion. But he had a vision, and he had a lofty vision, if we're gonna call it a vision. He had a vision that started with rebuilding trust with the people that were ultimately gonna make the company great again. Building trust with the people that were gonna make the company great. And he knew the only way to do that was to reestablish values by which the organization would make all future decisions. So he accepted the role as CEO in the late 90s. And in order to start that rebuild, we needed to change first and foremost, how did we treat our employees? So Ben drafted something called Acuity's Bill of Rights. So this is very similar. You've heard of the Bill of Rights, our nation's founding fathers, right? They documented the civil rights, the liberties of our great nation. Everyone signed off on it. Acuity needed to document and just have complete buy-in from all the executives at the time in order to dramatically start shifting the environment in the entire organization. Ben knew until there was a fierce respect for every individual, and this wasn't just talked about, but it was actually acted upon consistently throughout the company, trust could never be instilled, right? He really believed this. And so the creation of the Bill of Rights started to cascade throughout the entire organization. It was permeated across the company to leaders, to employees, and it was a critical first step in turning around our culture. And every decision we've really made since then has gone back and funneled back to those values. And it impacted how we treat employees, how we treat customers, how we treat the third-party agents we work with. Everyone was family. And I want to now tell you, this all sounds great, but what impact did it actually have on our company? And what I'm going to do is just go through some of the accolades we've received in the last 20 to 25 years after we made these fundamental shifts. In 2016, that was a big year for Acuity because we were ranked #2, only behind Google, as the best company to work for in America. In 2020 and 2021, we ranked as a top 100 best place to work by Glassdoor, competing against almost 1 million other companies. Just 2 weeks ago, we were ranked #1 for work-life balance on Glassdoor. We've been ranked that the last 2 years, even in the midst of COVID. Employee turnover, I mentioned 30%. It's gone down to 2 to 3% per year, which leads almost any industry. People love working here and they stay here for a very long time. We're also one of the most profitable insurance companies in the industry. So these fundamental changes that took place when Ben and his leadership team took over and continue to uphold our organization since then have just had a tremendous impact on the environment, on the culture, and ultimately culture does influence business success. So a really cool story. With clearly defined values, culture not only influences morale and retention, but it's going to impact the business. Now, I'll admit, I think culture has become kind of a buzzword in the business setting, right? Everyone's like, I want to be at a company with a good culture. So what does culture really mean? So I'll start with this. Culture actually is not perks. Now, that doesn't mean Acuity doesn't have a lot of great perks. We have some cool pictures here, right? We have a rock climbing wall in our building. We have a fitness center. We've got NBA-sized basketball courts, a Ferris wheel, happy hours, those free-for-all Wednesdays we were talking about. Those are fantastic, and they're wonderful to have, but they can't be the culture. They can support the culture. Culture is how you feel when you walk into work, how you feel when you interact with someone in the fitness center or at a meeting. Culture is how you feel when you interact with your peers and the leaders of the company. It's being respected, right? It's your hard work being recognized and being honored. And when Acuity defined its values and lived them out consistently, we created a culture and we elevate that culture with these, awesome perks. So again, these things aren't culture, but again, they support the culture. They allow the interactions and the things that matter in the culture to be lived out and supported. But today we're here to focus with an IT mindset for this tech talk. Where does IT fit in at Acuity, especially as an insurance company? Both Ben, our CEO, and Marcus, who's here with us, I've heard them say multiple times, Acuity is a software development company that happens to sell insurance. And I think that's an awesome statement. What a commitment to developing products we use to serve our customer. And when we build our own applications, our own tools in-house, and we can customize them to be more efficient than our competitors in every way, and how we serve our customer, how quickly we can quote new business is just a massive competitive advantage. And so there's just this tremendous backing from leadership that our IT infrastructure is really critical. We have over 150 software developers. We're building something really special. So for a deeper dive into the structure of the department and learn more about who we are in the tech space, Marcus, I will pass it over to you. And I will unshare here too.
All right, thanks, Jordan.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen here. I just have a few slides that I put together.
Perfect. You're coming in just a little quiet, Marcus. I don't know if that's just on my end.
Okay.
That sounds better right there.
There we go. So can everyone see that? There we go. So again, thanks. Kind of following up from what Jordan had said, and that is something we talk about quite a bit. Is our CEO does say, we are a technology company that just happens to be housed inside an insurance company. Following the footsteps of the former head of IT, who's now my boss, definitely has pros and cons. Overall, it's been phenomenal because Ben truly believes in the value that technology can bring to the organization. And that's what I want to try to highlight. Throughout all of this, if there's questions, feedback, comments, feel free to interrupt. But to start off with, going to share our mission statement. Yeah, that's not that exciting. Every company has a mission statement, but what I really want to try to focus on is how IT is leveraged throughout us accomplishing this mission statement. So, first, when we talk about being recognized as an innovative leader, we are viewed as a technology leader within the insurance industry, and that's followed up by awards we've won from industry, organizations, from the work we do with our agents, from our customers. We really do strive to find ways to be innovative within the insurance industry, and technology is a key part of that. From there, if we go to a broad set of commercial and personal products, insurance is a fairly unique industry because there's no tangible product that's produced. The only thing we really do is it's an insurance policy. So at the end, at its heart, everything, the products that we have within insurance are really the data and information and the processes we use to manage that data. Those are really the products that we produce. And again, that's all driven and owned and dependent upon IT to be able to enable that. From there, we continually reinvent, business processes to maximize operational efficiency. There's a company in the insurance industry called Ward Benchmarking, and they evaluate every company across the country. And every year we're rated as one of the top 50 best run companies in the country, and I've been on that list for the last 20 years. And one of the benchmarks they have is kind of average size, how many employees a company our size typically needs. And we're typically anywhere between 300 and 400 additional employees that we would have to have at Acuity to be the same size as most other companies. How are we able to have that is because of how we leverage technology. It's just built into everything that everyone in every department does, is how can I use technology to make me better at my job and more efficient? And that pays off because we're that much more efficient. And from there, be the easiest company to do business with. This really focuses on our customers and the agents that we work with. How can we make their lives easier, the process and how they interact with us as easy as possible? And again, because we're dealing with data information, it's heavily technology driven to be able to support and enable that. Moving forward, Jordan had mentioned core values. This is actually our set of core values, and always like to share this because I think it's interesting how this evolves and how it ties into IT. We do look to develop and empower people. We act with integrity. We have access in the insurance industry to a lot of data. We have probably records on close to 5 million people, within our system. So we take protection of that information very seriously. One of our core values is have fun. Really think that's an important part of our culture in the overall organization. At the same time, we drive for excellence. We set high standards. We expect a lot because we've been able to achieve it. You know, we innovate, we work as a team. Communication is a key aspect. And then respect and trust others. What I really love about these core values, it's an example of what each employee is expected to do, but equally as it's important is what you can expect and demand from your coworkers as well. So that respect, that communication, that drive for excellence, it's a two-way street for everybody. So moving on, kind of want to talk a little bit about our department structure. So our department, we have a total staff of right now of 266 people. How that's organized is I've got 5 general managers that report directly to me. And then there's a group of 28 managers that report up through those general managers. We have teams typically of 6 to 10 people that are organized across the department and really break down into 3 primary areas of responsibility. Application development, like Jordan had said, we're a little unique is that we build most of our core applications in-house. So we've got 191 people that kind of roll up through application development. Our tech and infrastructure houses about another 53 people, and then information security. We've got a team of 22 people that are focused on that. So diving in a little bit more within application development, again, like I said, we predominantly build versus buy for our core systems. Those teams are organized really by business area or system. So kind of some of the major system components would be our personal lines for our personal lines business, commercial lines, claims, and finance. So that's roughly how a lot of those teams are organized. Primary languages we're currently using are Java and COBOL. Some of our developers are solely working in either one of those two, but a large number are bilingual. We also house a wide variety of additional tools and technology that really don't fall into maybe some of your standard, I sit and program in a single language each and every day. And some examples of that are really document creation, ingestion, and management. We produce over 5 million pages of documents every month. Are the insurance policies we produce, the bills that we send out, etc. So we have a whole platform that we use for document creation. We receive anywhere between 6 and 7 million documents incoming in a monthly basis. Most of those electronically, some still in paper form. So we have an entire system that goes through that document ingestion process, managing of that, workflow and routing of that, and then storage and retrieval after the fact. So, we have a whole team that's focused on that enterprise content management. We've got several teams that are focused on data, process, and service modeling. So really modeling out the data we have within our organization, building out the data warehouse, whether that's at a relational model or a dimensional standpoint, as well as then reporting for all of that data. We have multiple reports that we use internal for businesses, as well as required statutory or organizational data feeds that we need to send externally. So again, maybe not traditional application development, but still an IT function. And then as well, we've got system and partner integration. So whether it's integrating with platforms, we use Salesforce for some aspects of our operations. So integrating within them, or partner integrations, working with the agencies and other third-party platforms. So being able to manage and coordinate API integrations to be able to handle all those partnerships. Moving into the tech and infrastructure areas, primary functions here are network and communications, so handling all of our data lines, all of our phone lines, communications, etc. We've got our server engineers, that handle both mainframe and open systems, administrative setup, etc. Computer operations. So we have 24/7, 365 staff in the building in our operations center. Technical support, which really manages all of our endpoint devices. Desktops were Apple, so iPads, iPhones, and then our help desk. And they support not only employees, but also our agents and customers with any tech support call-in questions. Our primary data center is located in our Sheboygan headquarters. We also have a redundant backup data center located kind of halfway between you and us down in Saukville. That's a fully redundant business resumption and disaster recovery site. We do real-time data replication between Sheboygan and Saukville, as well as then do a third-party, our third location offsite nightly backup of all of our data. Again, operationally, organizationally, we cannot function without the data that our systems have and without access to those to our systems. And overall, we support 1,500 plus employees, predominantly in our home office, but as well as field, and for the last 2 years, remote as well. Lastly is information security, kind of the third pillar of the department. Recently, this has been the largest area of growth as demands and from an information security perspective have continued to elevate. Really broken down into 3 primary areas. Prevention, which is really kind of our firewall, equipment hardening, kind of some of those things. Detection, really looking at event logs and incident management, as well as proactive pen testing. And then newer in there is compliance. Insurance industry is heavily regulated. There are ever increasing regulatory requirements for what we are required to do from an information security perspective. So managing compliance with all of those requirements, we really have another team that's focused on that. And another big piece of that is through that regulatory requirements is third-party evaluation. So basically, we are held accountable for any partner that we integrate with, anyone that we provide any data to. We have to assess and be certain that they are appropriately managing that data. So information security is definitely an ever-increasing area of focus within the IT industry overall. From there, kind of wanted to shift and give a little bit of perspective of what do we do? What are the major projects and tasks that we spend a lot of our time on within the department? Really, our primary focus is business-driven strategic initiatives. So again, because business is so interwoven and dependent upon technology, most of our larger projects, so Jordan mentioned when we want to go into the state of Georgia, that's about a 20,000 hour project for IT to be able to work on that. So got multiple teams of people that are working on new state rollouts, full time. We're looking at rolling out new product offerings. So we're in the process of developing a specific program to ensure craft breweries. Again, that's an IT driven project. So pretty much, we have a list of 20 different strategic initiatives that are all kind of business driven. And that dictates a lot of our project work. Ongoing operations and support is also another just big task and consumes probably 25+% of our daily time that's available. We call this really just keep the lights on. It's making sure we do all the necessary system upgrades. We do all the appropriate patches, that we respond to tickets and incidents. People lose their phone, their laptop crashes and dies. We have to make sure that, basically, again, keep the lights on. Keeping the company operational is a full-time job for many part of the department. From an IT focused perspective, some of the primary initiatives, I'm trying to drive and accomplish within, first, long-term ongoing initiative is restructuring our core application architecture. Really from an enterprise data and service oriented architecture. We've had many applications that have been originally developed years ago, and now as they developed, they were kind of built in individual silos. We're now going through the process of consolidating, centralizing all of that. So all the data across the enterprise is in one centralized repository, and then enabling that through a service-oriented architecture. From a tech perspective, we're working on implementing a CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline, really to be able to automate some of our server builds and application deployments, and then beginning to leverage containers as that platform to be able to enable portability across infrastructure. For the last 2 years, we've been undergoing an agile transformation. So moving all of our core project management from a more of a traditional waterfall methodology to leverage the benefits of agile. So that's been an ongoing initiative. Currently working on a demand management initiative as well. And the easiest way to explain that is, our backlog of projects that we have, if we didn't come up with another new idea, we have enough work for the next 3+4 years. So how do we appropriately manage that demand through a variety of different strategies and ensure that we're working on the things that are of the most importance and the right priority? And then as well, coordinate resources across all of these various diverse teams to ensure operational efficiency within the IT area. And then lastly, what we've called shift security left. Really because security is so important, it used to be, 5-10 years ago, viewed almost as an afterthought. Hey, after we're done with everything, let's have the security team look at it and say, does this look good? We really want security to be built into the process from the ground up. And that goes from, within CI/CD, from a server and application build and deployment process, as well as within our application development process, and just organizationally, just making sure everyone is constantly thinking about how do we protect the data that we're entrusted with. Shifting gears a little bit, with that organization, with that kind of the background, with, that kind of the workload that we have, wanted to share in general what some of our entry-level job opportunities are within the application development area. We do have a strong programming internship. We do have openings available for, next summer, as well. Then, other typical open entry-level jobs in that area would be at the programmer level. And again, right now we're hiring for our June starting class, so June of next year. Within the tech infrastructure area, we do offer tech support internships, really helping with our desktop deployments and support. And then as well, system engineers. Currently, no openings kind of at the entry level, more looking for some experienced candidates in that realm. Within security, we've done internships there as well. Again, no current openings there, but that's been successful us to give some exposure to our security team. And then as well, a security engineer would be another entry-level position. And again, right now, no current openings for on our security team. We're fully staffed there. As we look at kind of those entry-level candidates, kind of wanted to share our perspective of, what are the factors we look at when, when we have somebody apply. And, it's always a combination of factors. We try to take very much of a holistic approach. But this, as I kind of sat down and was putting this together, these are some of the things that really jumped to the top of my mind. Really first and foremost is that technical aptitude and ability to learn. We are a technology company. We need people that have that technical skill set, that technical mindset. But at the same time, first day anyone starts in the department, I always tell them is, here's what you've learned so far. Here's what I need you to know. We understand that. I think the biggest thing that you can take away from your college experience is just build that muscle on how to learn. Because anyone who thinks that, what they learn from a technology perspective now is going to last them for the next 20, 30, 40 years in their career is delusional. Technology is just moving too fast. So again, what we really look for is, do you have the ability to grasp that? and the ongoing ability to learn. Teamwork and culture fit are really a big part, and it's hard to explain exactly what we're looking for. I think what is important is examples of teamwork that you've done in your college experience. But as Jordan kind of highlighted, our culture is really key and important to us. We really feel like what we have together is a family, and it's something special. So we spend a lot of time and effort to make sure that whoever we invite in and join that team is going to be a fit for how we like to do things and how that works. We love diversity. We love an open mindset. We love all of that. It's more just, are you going to be able to collaborate with that diverse group of people we have across the organization? Problem solving skills are important. I think that's kind of obvious within technology. Spend more time probably fixing things than actually anything else. That's a constant challenge within IT. So having the ability to do that. Communication and soft skills. I think this is just vitally important. Jordan and Maddie have both probably heard this, as I say it quite often. Personally, I believe communication is the cause of and the solution to most business problems. It's the cause of the problem because when there's conflict, when something isn't going right, it's because there was a miscommunication. Somebody misunderstood, somebody forgot to update somebody forgot to do the appropriate planning. And it's the solution because the way to fix that is by making sure we're doing more proactive, efficient, and effective communication. So that's a great skill, especially within IT, because being able to bridge that gap and communicate, be that liaison between techie, and I can speak the speak, but to be able to understand the business needs is pivotally important. And I think when I share kind of some of my background and experiences, I think that's been a key part of my success, because I'm not the brightest technically, I'll be the first to say it, but is that ability to communicate and collaborate and work effectively with others, because IT can be very much of a heads down, I'm working with technology role, but at the end of the day, people building that technology is only effective if it's being able to be used by other people and is able to meet their needs. We definitely look at drive and motivation. Are you self-motivated? I think we love to provide lots of opportunities for people, but at the end of the day, and I'll highlight that later, is you're the driver of your own ship. Like you need to drive your own career and be self-motivated. And then as well, we do look at work and internship experience. Internships are great. If you have the opportunity, I think that's just a tremendous opportunity to get that real world experience. But if not, as well, as I look at it, what's your work experience? Have you been out there working with other people in a paid environment where you're not going to like everybody you work with every day, and how do you manage that? So moving forward then, and I think Maddie will cover this a little bit more, but once we have somebody hired, we do have a pretty vigorous onboarding program. We've made that investment and we want to make sure that's a great experience for everybody. We do have a pretty intensive training program that we send everybody through to kind of get boots on the ground. Once we go through that training program, really then shifts to team assignment and have a lot of support systems there for ongoing learning on the job within your team, mentoring and guiding and supporting, whether that's through coworkers, your manager or other people across different teams. Overall, really a lot of focus on continuing education and again, provide a lot of opportunities for whatever fits your needs. We offer a whole host of, I just call it company sessions and a wide variety of different things. We do strategic planning where we'll bring in a whole host of industry-leading experts. We do that annually. Most of these sessions are recorded and they're made available to all the employees. So, that's more learning about the business and what's going on from a strategy perspective. We'll do more soft skill training. Right now, we're working with a company called Darcy Loma Consulting for our IT and business analyst groups, and having them come in and do facilitated sessions on coaching and communication. We'll do more technical training sessions that we make available. So a whole host of different things that we offer from that perspective. External training, we'll bring in external trainers as well. We'll bring in consultants. Always very open to supporting people to go if they find a conference or a class or a session that is applicable, do that. And then we have a formal education reimbursement program. So once you're hired, we'll pay for your ongoing education. So you want to go back and get your master's degree? Great, we'll love that. We'll pay for it for you. So again, a lot of ongoing investment and opportunities there. Overall, from a career growth, how does that work? Like I said, we've got those continual investments employees. Really, the biggest thing how I see people developing is just by the knowledge and experience they gain from the tasks and projects that they work on. So again, starting out day one, you're not going to be assigned the mission critical, 25,000 hour project to lead up. You're going to kind of be spoon fed something. But really, I think we love to challenge people and empower them to choose their path in terms of how quickly they want to grow. Some people like to be, you know what, I want to dive deep this one system or application. I want to become the expert on this system and know everything about it. That's great. If that's what you want, we'll support that. Some people are more like, you know what? I want to go an inch deep, but I want to go a mile wide. I want to know a little bit about how everything works across the organization. We need people like that. And if that's, the focus you want to have, we'll love that. And we'll support that. And working together with your team and your manager, you can kind of start to select which opportunities, tasks, and projects you work on to be able to guide that experience. Broader than that, we've got a flexibility in team placement. People get assigned to a team, but we always have opportunities, and we're always very encouraging to say, hey, you know what, I started and I spent 3 years working within our finance team, but now there's an open opportunity over in claims, and I want to start to work on the claims application. That's great, that cross collaboration. And that's not just IT, that's organizationally, we really do that. Corporate lattice is a term that can be used in terms of career progression. Isn't always, I started at a junior, then I went to a senior title, then I went here, then I went here. It's not always a ladder. Sometimes you have to move sideways, sometimes maybe even backwards before you can move up. We've got multiple examples, and I'll highlight again in my personal story, I'm one of them, where we've had people move from department to department. And I think that's really proved successful for us organizationally. And then there's tons of opportunities for involvement in other, assignments. We've got various different types of clubs. We've got, an employee activity committee that people can be part of. Other opportunities where you can do work-related things that may not even be IT focused, but just give you exposure to different people and build different muscles and utilize different skill sets. Again, at the end of the day, I can't emphasize enough, we really strive to empower people to plot their own journey and decide where they want to go. And up to and including that, we've had some people that their next step on their journey is at a different company because they just need a different experience. And it happens often that a couple of years later, they're back in the fold and they've gained that broader experience and are ready to take their next step. So that's one of the things I really like about the company. So again, as a personal example, kind of wanted to share my background and kind of how my career progression has gone at Acuity. I've been there for approaching 30 years. Started at Acuity, right? Then it was Heritage. I lived through a lot of what Jordan had said. And yes, it was as bad as he indicated. I originally graduated with a degree in finance. So nothing to do with IT. I got hired back then at Heritage as a management trainee, and my first job right out of college was supervising a team of data entry clerks. They were all women, and most of them were about the age of my mother at that time. So what an amazing experience. Definitely learned a lot of lessons, management skills, but being in that area also understood the value of operational efficiency. And at the end of the day, this is what the company needs to do, the tasks they need to get done to make money and be successful. So from there, I transferred to our department called Business Systems and became a business analyst. In that role, really was responsible for a lot of our process and system design. This area really helps develop a lot of our system requirements and specifications. They're really a liaison between IT and the business function areas, are involved with a lot of user acceptance testing, as well as training and implementation. So, really, again, learn the project life cycle, system design, etc. In that role, really began to understand, again, that value of communication and collaboration. And that's where I think, I didn't have the technical training, but I had the aptitude to understand technology and be able to communicate to the business to say, oh, here's why what you are asking for isn't possible technically, or is really difficult technically. But then at the same time, to be able to communicate to IT to say, no, I know that's what they said, but we really just needed to do A, then B, then C. So that communication and collaboration is important. During this time, I actually went back to school. Acuity paid for it, and I got a computer science degree. So, again, taking advantage of that opportunity. From there, after a number of years, I had the opportunity to move into what was then called a director in IT, basically just a manager role, overseeing a couple of our application development teams, and had the opportunity to be a project lead on one of our largest IT-focused strategic initiatives. So really learned the value of project planning and management. At the end of the day, everything we do within IT is a project. So, understanding how that overall process works is important. And again, really reinforced the value of knowing the business needs. Being responsible for overseeing what an application development team was executing. In order to know what was priority, I needed to work with the business to say, hey, here's what we need to get done, and here's how we can do it most efficiently. And then from there, I had the opportunity to step into my current role as the head of IT. I've been in that role for almost 8 years now, and really continue to learn and gain new understanding each and every day. I think that's something that will never change within the technology industry. So. Sorry if I rattle on a little long, but that's really what I wanted to share. And I will pause and welcome the opportunity to answer any questions or provide any more context than anything that I shared, or otherwise I know Maddie's up on docket as well.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? You can feel free to raise your hand if you do. Yeah, Emily.
So I attended your guys' tech talk when I was a freshman 2 years ago, and I remember that was when you guys were at the start of transitioning from waterfall to a more agile method. So I'm just curious of how that process has gone for you guys, and like what has been the challenges from taking from waterfall to more agile and changing your whole work process basically.
Yeah, it has definitely been a journey. So it's been about 2 years, and we just this month actually stood up the last new product teams across our entire application development area. I think it's been a learning process. The results have been outstanding. I mean, I think the feedback that we get from the business is they feel so much more engaged. I've got numerous examples of because of applying that agile mindset, rather than doing a 1,000-hour project that we only would have used 20% of it, because we did it in a more iterative manner, we stopped after the first 20% and said, you know what, we don't need to do the rest of it, or we'll come back and do that later. We want to shift to something that's a higher priority right now. At the same time, you know, some of the challenges has been, it's a new way of thinking. We've got a lot of people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years, and they're all in and they're ready to do it, but it's new terminology. I mean, you know, everyone still, you know, giggles when we say scrum masters and product owners and, you know, daily stand-ups and retrospectives and all, you know, all the rest of the buzz terms, but, you know, learning all of that and getting everybody used to it. As well, some of the challenges is doing it within an individual team was relatively easy. We got this group of 6 to 8 people and they're gelled and they're working really well. But we're such a large organization that doing it at scale and managing the interdependencies between multiple products and teams is where we're still facing some challenges. You know, so how do we used to have that worked out in waterfall, but not learning how to do that within agile has been a little difficult, and we're still working through it. Like we always say, that's, you know, that's one of the key things is, you know, part of agile is constantly being willing to adapt and change. And I think, you know, we apply that to our agile transformation as well. Well, with that, I'll turn it over to Maddie, and, you know, glad to stick around afterwards if there's any additional questions or follow-up.
Thank you, Marcus. I have a slide at the end of mine too that we can go over any questions. So again, my name is Maddie Martens. I'll talk a little bit about my experiences specifically with Acuity and as well as my transition from Concordia. So let's see if I can get this. Here's just like a little outline, a little bit about me, some of my training, what my role looks like now, some of my favorite aspects of Acuity, and then I'll end with some advice that I would give myself if I was still your age. So about me, I started at Concordia for my undergrad in fall of 2016. I graduated in spring of 2019, so I was only there for 3 years, got a double major in computer science and math. I did a little bit of overlap with my graduate program. I started also in spring of 2019, getting my master's, and then finished that up after I started at Acuity, and it's been almost a year since I graduated with my master's. So from Concordia, I went to Acuity. I started as a programmer at Acuity in June of 2019, and then I was promoted about 2 years later, which was just this last summer, to programmer analyst. So next, a little bit about my training at Acuity, and I know it's changed a little bit now from when I was in it because we are always improving, always trying to find better ways to get information across and teach our employees. But for me, my training was in a classroom setting for about 2 months. They put us back into the classroom. Some people think it's like college. I would say it's a lot closer to high school because it is almost an 8-hour day that you are in the classroom. I was in a class with a handful of people that were in the same spot as me. A lot of them were also just graduated from college. I think only one person out of the 12 people in my training class were not just recently graduated. And I found that really comforting. We were all in the same boat, probably all had the same fears. Even though we went to different colleges, we had similar experiences, and it was a pretty level playing field starting in the classroom setting. So for me, again, some of this may have changed. We spent a good chunk of time learning COBOL in training, probably about 80% or more. And then the last 2 weeks, we rapid fire went through Java, different kinds of testing, SQL security, and probably some other things that I don't remember because it went so fast. So right at the end of training was when we were assigned to a team. Again, this is just my personal opinion, but I thought Acuity did a shockingly good job at assigning most people to a team where their strengths were aligned with what the team does, as well as where personalities really meshed well. I definitely see that myself and a lot of the people that were in my training class. And then I think this was mentioned by either Marcus or Jordan too, but you get paired with a mentor right away. And I worked with my mentor for the 2 years that I was on the team as a programmer before I was promoted. And even still today, I still go to my mentor with questions every once in a while. So that leads to what my role is now. I transitioned to mostly working from home because of the pandemic in March of 2020, as I'm sure a lot of you guys were sent home because of Concordia or wherever you were in life then too. That was only 9 months into my job. So I was still working very closely with my mentor, still a lot of hand-holding going on, and was had to really transition to a lot of different new things at home. But I am still mainly working from home, even though the office is open again. As for the work itself, Jordan talked a little bit about the business side of, we do a lot of commercial lines. I'm on the personal lines side, which means your home, your auto, if you have any recreational vehicles, things like that. Specifically, I work on the agent's website or the website that our agents use to write that business. Marcus talked a little bit about Agile, so I won't go very deep into that, but my team has been Agile pretty much since I started on the team, and that has been a transition for everybody, and I got to be a part of that, which was a good experience. And then another thing that Marcus mentioned was just keeping the lights on, and that a lot of that is our team coverage. For my team specifically, that ends up being about once every week and a half that I am on call for a day. Any problems that get sent to our help desk that has to do with what my team does, I have to look into those problems and get back to those customers. And then my role now, even though I was promoted, I still ask questions, I still have to get my code reviewed, and I still have a lot to learn. So now some of my favorite aspects of Acuity. I could go on and on and on, but these are just a few of my favorite things. First of all, the people. We talked a little bit about culture, or we talked a lot about culture, and that really is the people. I could not be where I am today without the people that have helped me get here. The people are amazing to work with. There really is just a level of care and concern for each other as the individual. We have a slogan that we love all of us, the agents, the employees, all the people we work with. So definitely the people. I could talk about that forever as well. Next, we did just win an award from Glassdoor for our work-life balance. Probably one of my favorite parts of that. There's a lot to work-life balance, but for me, it's been the flex scheduling. There are some days where I start at 6 a.m. so that I can be done by 2:30 or 3 and have some evening plans. And then there are some other days where I start at 8:30 or later because I want to get my workout in before I start my day. And this works for me because my first meeting is usually Scrum, and that's not until 9:30. So I really appreciated the flex scheduling, particularly for the work-life balance. Next, culture of work hard, play hard. Yes, programming and software development can be hard work. It's not easy every day. We do have to do a lot of problem solving, and that's not always fun. But we do have that play hard mentality too. The free for all Wednesdays, we have the recreational center, the exercise facility, different things like that, different company events where we do get to play as well. Next, chocolate. Acuity does love to give us chocolate, so I had to put that on there because I also love chocolate. The firm and the courthouse, that was what I just mentioned with the exercise facility and our recreational center with the full-size courts. Next, the 5-year club is a club that Acuity has for new employees in their first 5 years at the company. And we just have a bunch of other clubs too, different ways to get involved, which I will mention in one of my other slides, just how important it is to get involved and have a strong community. So I've appreciated that. It helps me get to know people. Some of those events were before COVID happened, and we have started a few of those since then. We've done some virtual events too. So that's just nice to get to know other people across the company, not just within our department. Tuition reimbursement, that's already been mentioned too. I took full advantage of that. Acuity paid for my master's at Concordia, and I am very grateful for that. So I wanted to add that on there. Unlimited sick days. This I also wanted to put on there because of living in a pandemic. It was just, it eased my mind knowing if I did get sick and I was unable to work, that was an option for me. Another thing that was already mentioned was just the continuous workshops that we have within the company to keep learning and keep growing, and just the emphasis that we have to keep doing that to keep up in the industry. And last, this kind of goes back to how important the people are. We're all a team and we have a common purpose, and you're not going to be left alone if you can't figure something out. And again, this is just the deep care and concern that we all have for each other as individuals, and not just an employee that can spit out as much work as possible. So I'll close with some advice that I would give my 20-year-old self. First of all, I mentioned this on the last slide, get involved. It doesn't matter what season of life you're in. I would say that this is probably the best advice I've been given and the best advice that I've taken too. At Acuity, that's looked like getting involved in some clubs, going to some events, not just sitting at home when we do have these events. So I would say that, as well as when you are in college, get involved in clubs and organizations there to gain experience, which I think is my next one. So gain as much experience as you can. This could be through clubs, through hackathons, internships, whatever it is. Take whatever experience you can, whether it is paid or unpaid. You want to have that experience, and it does look really good on a resume. Apply to jobs early is my next piece of advice. I applied to Acuity, I want to say at the beginning of November when I was a senior, and within a month I was hired by Acuity, and then I started. That was like almost 6-7 months later. So before my last semester at Concordia, I was already offered my full-time job. Next, trust the process. This is a big one that my manager has told me, that your career is a marathon, not a sprint. As much as you probably want the next promotion, as much as you want to keep learning and growing, you really just have to keep trusting the process, taking projects as they come. Marcus talked a lot about taking charge of the boat, or whatever that analogy was. So doing that and trusting the process, that they don't expect us to know a whole lot in our first 2 years. And it is crazy how much I can look back and see what I have learned and how I've grown in the last, now 2.5 years that I've been at Acuity. As far as classes at Concordia, software engineering was probably the closest real life experience I got in a classroom setting. A lot of emphasis was on Agile and the, what is it called? The life cycle, the project development life cycle. All of the programming classes were really helpful too. We've talked about how computer science is problem solving, and just working that muscle, again, that was mentioned earlier, was all really helpful. And then, as silly as it sounds, I have absolutely used logic tables from the logic class. I think Professor Locklear has done that in some of his classes too. Sometimes I'm just working through a problem and have to lay it out that way. So that has also been useful. So much of my job is testing that I encourage you to work on your testing skills now. Write good test plans, try to take it from every angle that you can. That is another muscle that I have to keep working on myself, and that's never going to end. And another one that was said earlier was communication. You would be surprised how much I have to communicate to different people, different stakeholders, customers. I'm in meetings every single day where I have to talk about what I'm working on and be able to articulate what that is. And then lastly, have a couple more here. Stay curious. I've said this a lot. Jordan and Marcus have said this a lot. Never stop learning. Keep learning about your role, the company, how things work, how they could be better. And then curious people innovate. So keep keep learning, and you can do that within a company that you're at. You can do that in school. It doesn't matter where you are. There's YouTube out there. There's so many different ways that you can keep learning. Another one, don't resist change. Be flexible. There's always going to be change. If there's anything that we have learned in the last year and a half, is that change is going to keep coming and it's going to keep happening, and we can't resist it because it's here and it's just going to keep getting, I guess, worse. I don't know if that's the best word, but change will always be there. So we have to be flexible and have a flexible mindset. This is probably one of my favorite quotes when it comes to your career, and it says, when you get a job and start working, don't forget to live. I love my job, but I also have things that I do outside of my job. So that is advice that I would give myself too. With that, do we have any other questions, whether for me or for Marcus and Jordan, if they want to pop back on here too?
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. Again, anyone, just feel free to raise your hand. Also, the other Computer Science Club board members, Emily and Jason, if you see guys that I don't, you can feel free to let me know. But yeah, any questions? Yeah, Tamish, go ahead.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yep.
This is sort of a question for Mr. Nuts. How do you evaluate people on the softer skills if they're not necessarily there? You can't see them in action all the time. How do you evaluate those?
Yeah, I think during the application process, I mean, we rely. Jordan has a lot of interaction with people from an HR perspective process. Then we go through a very really rigorous not on-site, but
Sorry.
and so it's part of the interview process. For employees that are on the job, it's really kind of the effectiveness of their communication and how they interact with their teammates, how they interact with other people in the department, and how they interact with people outside the department. As Maddie said, she's on the phone with our agents. An agent calls in, they're using our website and having a problem, and it gets reported, and there's a system issue. She's on the phone calling back and talking to them. So not a lot of tangible metrics, but just through observations and interaction.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Locklear, is that you raising your hand?
It is. I'm not sure if you can hear me because I have tin can internet, and my ISP that usually runs at 3 megabits per second has slowed way down, so I can't even get video going. But I just wanted to say, apologize for being late, but Maddie, I do appreciate your presentation. And my one question to you, Maddie, is this. In software engineering, I like to have teams, as you know, and we do some team processes. That's always problematic in an academic setting, but would you say that in spite of the difficulties of trying to do a team project in software engineering, is that still worthwhile?
I would say yes, because you're always going to have to work on a team. It doesn't matter if you're at Acuity or another company, unless you are your own boss. I don't even think that if you are your own boss, you probably still have to work with other people. It is that soft skill of working with others and communicating. And so I would absolutely keep that as part of the class.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question. And this can be for any of the three of you. I guess I'm wondering if in the past 5 years, has the process you use for training your programmers changed much, or has your goals for them changed much?
Yeah, I would say, as Maddie said, I mean, even from what she went through 2 years ago, that's been an evolution, and that constantly changes. So yeah, I think we've continued to make enhancements and refinements to that. Most recently, it's gone completely virtual. The class that we started last year was 100% virtual throughout their entire onboarding and training process. So I think that's brought some actual improvements to it. by breaking it up into a little bit more, smaller chunks, etc. Um, it's kind of interesting because we do get a lot of feedback as well. Why do we run everybody through COBOL? Some of our core applications are still COBOL, so we feel it's important, even if you're never going to actually do a day of COBOL programming in your life at Acuity, to have that foundational understanding, because even if you're not in a team supporting those systems, you're going to be interacting with teams that's their primary technology. And most colleges don't offer that. And that's why we still do that. We debate that on a regular basis, whether we should or shouldn't. But, again, I think we would rather skew towards investing in more training. And if the worst thing that happens is you spent a month learning COBOL and you never used it a day in your life, well, you're at least getting paid the whole time. So.
I haven't written a line of COBOL since training, but it definitely does help me in my job because I have to work with those developers every day. And some of what they do, I have to sync up with on my side, which is the Java side. So I definitely appreciate having that training.
Got it. Thank you so much.
I have another question, I guess, kind of related to COBOL. But I guess at Concordia, your company is kind of famous for you learn 10% of you need for your job in school, and then the 90% you learn on the job. That's probably due to Dr. Lippman. But I'm curious of how you guys recommend us as students when we're like 100% in college for us to be able to still get the 90% that we need outside of our schooling, but still not overwhelm ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's where the most important thing is, like Maddie said, we really don't expect people to be highly productive, until 18 to 24 months on the job, just because of the massive amount you need to learn. So I think during school, it's learning new things, and again, developing that muscle memory on how to learn and apply new things. And that's really what we look for. It's difficult to ascertain how somebody does that, but I would encourage you to try to learn a couple of different languages, apply a couple of different things, and maybe, like Maddie said, is don't get stressed out about it. We've seen, again, in the last 10 years, we've probably hired 200 plus people out of college just within the IT department. So, we've got some experience about what most people's learning cycle looks like. And some people can come in and they're at the head of the class and they learn it all. And the first year they're great. And then they'll kind of hit a cliff a year into it where they're struggling. Some people come in the first 3 or 4 weeks, they're like, oh my God, am I going to get fired? Should I quit my job? I can't do this. And then they take off. So, and we're committed to meeting you wherever it works best for you. So I don't know if that really answered your question, other than maybe don't worry about it. Trust yourself. I mean, you've already demonstrated that you're successful in your schooling, and we bring you in because we believe in you. And we're going to support you, and it's in our mutual benefit to have you be successful. So we're going to do whatever we can, and we'll find a way to help you be successful.
I really appreciate you saying that. I do just want to note for the students here, that was when I was a freshman. These tech talks were really overwhelming because I was already so involved. So I think this really depends on where you're coming from. And, like as much as you want to be so involved, sleep in college is important too, and that's going to help you work better. So, it's great that Acuity understands work-life balance means life too, as Maddie said. And, maybe you get that and you need to hear that you need to be more involved. So it really is like knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And so I really appreciate you saying that, Marcus, that, we need that.
Yeah, one of our core values is have fun. And I think, I encourage all of you to have school life balance too.
Yeah.
If people have more questions, it's okay, even if you've asked before. If you have any others, now's the time. Yeah, go ahead, Tamesh.
Having not really done internships or anything like that before, I don't always know what the requirement is. I'm a first year student right now. I have a little bit of prior work experience. If I need something over the summer, would you guys be, and I
Mhm.
went through the process, is there something I could do with only 1 year of experience under my belt in school?
Yeah.
Or do you want to hit that one, or you want me
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, I can definitely hit that one. Yeah, so our internship is designed very intentionally to be very coding intensive.
Mm.
And we've established it that way because we want you to be able to come in, get an experience where you're actually adding value to the organization, right? So you're going to be working on a project that we're going to use after you leave. It's not an intern serving coffee, which is like a common, that's what you do as an internship. I'm just picking up the Starbucks order in the morning. That is not what we do in our organization. We're actually putting you onto an agile team. You're contributing to projects. We're giving you a training at the beginning of the summer to just integrate you into some of the technologies we have. And then you get to put your skills that you've been learning in the education setting to work with a very close mentor who's supporting you through that process. So that being said, because it is so coding intensive, we have found the most success with individuals who've gone through a couple years in their program. Right. So we're talking about, like, usually we see junior status between junior and senior year over that summer to be really successful. And then if they want to continue into the school year in a remote basis and work kind of part-time, that seems to work really well. But from an internship perspective, it's not that you're not capable necessarily, but we only have so many openings. And we want to give people who have that additional coding experience opportunities as often as we can. But as we get bigger, that could expand. But right now, that's the resources we have.
Okay. That's kind of what I was expecting. I just
Yeah.
figured I'd ask. So thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, I guess a question I have for any of you three. I'm a business analytics major. It's a brand new degree here, so it's kind of incorporating both the business side and also a little bit of the IT side, which is right up my alley. So I just kind of want to hear maybe what kind of positions you have in terms of data at Acuity.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I said, we have some positions like that on the IT side, more from technical data, getting it ready for our analytics platform. More of the role that you might be looking for is more actuarial area. Strategic analytics is the department. So that actually falls under our VP of actuary. So, we have openings in that realm as well. Well, I don't know if we have it. I shouldn't say we have openings. We have positions in that area as well. And that's a team that continues to grow, where you're more working, combination with our actuaries doing actual analytics. So that might be a good follow-up, with Jordan, that some details on what some of those positions are, as well as when we have any openings in that area.
Yeah, I'll provide my email here too in the chat. I'll just send it to everyone here, and then I do quite a bit of the recruiting over the actuarial and strategic analytics department. So if anyone else kind of has had exposure in that area, Lucas, you specifically, I'd be happy to have a conversation.
All right, well, are there any other questions? If not, I don't want to keep you guys at Acuity too much longer. Yeah, as Jonathan said in the chat, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming out virtually for us and hearing about your company. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, thanks to all of you.
Awesome.
Great to get a chance to talk with you. Good luck to you the rest of the semester.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.